Good morning. You see the bright sunshine, Einar?
Yeah, what do you think of this place? It's your office. So thank you for allowing us to be here.
It's a nice view out the
Not bad,
window.
not bad. But from the nice to the reality, Pakistan.
Pakistan. The situation has really been disastrous. 35 million homeless. 1/3 of the land is now underwater.
Still underwater.
Still underwater. Part of it has dried up, but still it's a complete disaster.
Well, I have to give you some strokes here because you really did an amazing job. Your appeal to date has raised, what, 230 million?
No, it wasn't my appeal.
Yes,
I only
it was.
participated in the appeal.
You made the appeal. You took action where others are standing by. Right now, U.S., they promised 327 million, but a little late. If you start looking at what China has put in, 400 million from the government.
Yeah.
And now, what is it?
260 million contributions.
From private sides.
From private sides.
And about half of that was from the appeal that you made. So
the embassy appeal, and I just took it to the social media.
Yeah, well, I also want to thank Tyher Institute.
Right.
Because they offered to allow you to use their
Facility,
equipment and facility to do that and to react very quickly to the situation.
I think it's absolutely amazing because immediately after it occurred, the Chinese government initially committed 100 million, but eventually President Xi specifically raised it to 400 million. And 200 million is for tents and foodstuff. Dozens of trucks are going from Xinjiang over to Pakistan by land, which is the quickest route, sending tomatoes and onions and basic foodstuff.
Well, I hope anyone listening to this will think about, the kind of tragedies, because this isn't going to be the last one.
That's right.
And these tragedies are going to strike everybody on Earth.
Yeah.
It's not just Pakistan or Sri Lanka or
Africa.
Yeah. There's so many places that are going to be in need, and the next couple of years are going to be difficult years.
That's right. So, even Europeans are running out of food, which is really...
Well, they're not running out. The prices are going up.
The prices are going up so much.
That's serious in itself.
Yeah.
Right. So...
the contribution, just finish on the contribution side. This is interesting. The Pakistani embassy appeal received in 2 weeks' time over 130 million. Yeah. And this is from just local folks. That
small amounts, 50,
that's right.
100, 200, 300,
that's right.
Why?
500, whatever. Yeah. And then the Friendship Association put up 135 million of corporate contributions. So,
well, it demonstrates, and in the international press,
it's not covered at all.
It's not covered at all.
That's right.
It's a footnote to everything. And,
that's right.
And then same thing with Afghanistan. Nothing. All right. 6 million people are facing starvation.
That's right.
And no one's really doing anything about it.
No one's doing anything. And like you said, I think what's worse is that the Western media is not covering it at all.
Yeah.
Following their government's narratives. It's really sad.
Well, let's talk about why they're ignoring it. They seem to be completely preoccupied with their own issues, which, starting with inflation, continue to be higher in developed countries than emerging and developed countries. Why do you see that?
I think the strategy in dealing with COVID from 2.5 years ago was basically print money. Print.
Yeah. Now you have massive debts.
That's right.
Lots of money floating around, and these central banks are moving to, and look, we have to talk about what happened at the Fed. They raised it by 75 basis points. The market took a dump. It still hasn't recovered. They
will raise it some more.
Yeah. They're looking at 75 basis points. So another full 1.5, 150 basis points above where it is now.
We'll be looking at 5% Fed rates.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is the inflation that is really bothering people in terms of food and energy. That's supply. All right. yes, you can depress the economy to the extent that no one wants to do business. That'll cut down on the supply, but it's also going to kill your economy.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what they're doing. And now the European bank is following suit, but way behind. They're at 2.25 right now. U.S. is over 4. So at this juncture, it's a race to raise rates, which will increase bond rates.
And it's a race to go into a depression.
Exactly. And already we're seeing stagflation, low economic activity followed by high increases in prices. It's not sustainable.
It's suicidal.
Yeah. The Heritage Foundation came out with a study.
Not your favorite institution.
Well, it's a very conservative group.
Very.
And they were definitely trying to make political points by saying that during Trump's time, real wages went up by $4,000 US, and that since Biden has taken office, it's gone down by 4,200. But what that masks is the fact that all that printing of money it occurred.
Where did it go?
And where did it come from? Trump. He was the one who signed those in. So, it's kind of like drinking and feeling good, and then the next morning having a hangover. So it's not all Joe Biden's fault, but he just does not seem to be in control of anything.
This midterm elections will be very interesting.
Yeah, it still comes down to this battle. Are you more concerned about inflation and your own interests, or do you care more about issues about division of the country, guns, abortion?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump. Come on.
That's right.
We have to talk about him as a major issue here.
Yeah.
Because he has just, I can declassify things in my mind if I think about it. Even Republican stalwarts were
zingers.
They're like, no, that's not the way it works.
No,
you can't do
he
that.
comes up with zingers.
Yeah, but he's saying, but now the special master, who he was the one who suggested that.
Right.
Yes, they each had 2 people they could name. This was one of his. From the Trump's defense team. Now this guy is just putting it in. He says, there was planted evidence? All right.
Show us.
That's
right.
All right. Yeah. He said, you declassified? Show us. Otherwise, I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
So this is really going to bite into his ability. And I wonder if since his legal defense team isn't saying any of these things, it's only Donald Trump outside. At what point does the judge say, no more talking about this, Mr. Trump. You're trying to prejudice the juries. And that seems what we have here.
It seems like where it's headed. At the same time, still 50% of the Republicans are
more than 50%.
Yeah, firmly in support of Mr. Trump.
But 54% of Americans say it's time for Mr. Trump to go. And that's all Americans, not a small core of Republican stalwarts. But, throughout the election, it's interesting from a point of view. This is going to be either Trump goes up or Trump goes away. Because right now, he had over 90% success rate in getting the candidates that he backed, who almost uniformly said that the election had been stolen. If they don't get into office, the Republican Party will say, Donald Trump is over. He's not our leader. He can't lead us to success. If you can't do that, you're part of the problem, not the solution.
So, if that's the case, what we have is a situation in which, if the Democrats beat out the Republican candidates who are mostly Trump people, it could be a Democratic landslide, the way things are moving.
It could be, but we won't know until things. The polls are going both ways, and I think a lot of it depends on. So, when Biden declared that COVID is over, inflation is over, I think let's say that seems more political than reality. But this goes to this issue that he only seems to care about partisan political issues. Where is the statesman? Where is the person that the world needs to step up?
We're not seeing many in the Western world today, statesmanship. But what I was referring to, Einar, is if slightly above 50% of Republicans are in support of Trump, which means these candidates that Trump pushed into becoming the candidates of the Republican Party don't receive the full support of the Republican Party, it doesn't augur well for the midterm elections for the Republican side. Right?
There was a poll among young Republicans who are not aligned with this. They're conservative, they're fiscal conservatives, but they're not there on this issue of gay marriage. They're not there on the issue of abortion, and they're not there in terms of this. The election was stolen.
That's right.
So if those people simply just say, "I'm not going to go vote,"
exactly,
that could be devastating. And
that's
as
right.
I said,
it would be a landslide.
Yeah. So American purchasing power has gone down by 4,200%. This has left millions of Americans struggling to pay for daily necessities. Credit card debt is up. Home loan debt is up.
Mortgage rates are up.
Yeah, but inflation has been pummeling along at over 12% average since January. Real wage increases 8%. So this is that 4,200. 63%, and I keep saying this, 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That means that they've each average, they lose $4,200. They can't pay for their lifestyle. That's why you're seeing credit card debt and home equity loans, upon which, because the Fed is pushing the rate, guess what? It's more expensive to borrow.
That's right.
This could literally lead to people losing their homes.
Credit card rates, by the way, if you look at the numbers, is really quite outrageous. 16% or higher.
Yeah. How can anybody? You can't make it now. There's
Yeah.
no relief.
How can you
How
bear
can you
the
pay
burden?
back? Yeah, I can't pay my bills now. Now I'm going to add 16% interest on top of it.
That's right.
It's just not going to work out. But
The banks are raking it in.
You brought up something really interesting, that in Germany, for instance, so we're talking about American inflation. Let's switch over to Europe and what's happening there. The inflation rate is pushing companies out of Europe. They can't afford the costs of the increased inflation, everything.
That's
the
right.
cost of living is going up. The cost of energy is going through the roof, and it's going to get worse. So you said for every one company that's thinking about leaving China, 8 are thinking about coming in.
Or actually, it was a report by the European Chamber of Commerce of companies' view toward investments in China.
Jörg Wuttke, our good friend.
Yes, 8-to-1 ratio. For every company looking to offshore from China, there are 8 who want to increase their onshore in China.
They have no choice. Where are you going to produce?
That's right.
If you produce in Germany or Europe at this juncture,
You won't be competitive.
internationally not
That's
competitive.
right. You're finished.
Yeah.
You're finished.
And domestically, unless they erect trade barrier walls, Chinese goods, not only Asian goods,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where they're from, because it's not just
It's
simply
the Asian supply chain.
but it's not just simply China that has a low inflation rate. Japan, South Korea, all of them the inflation
Asian
rate
countries.
is lower
That's
than
right.
it is in the West. So, it's the exact opposite. In the past, the U.S. got a cold, everyone else got the flu. Right now, it looks like the U.S. has the flu and everyone else just has a cold.
This is very interesting because the new Prime Minister of Germany and his entire cabinet have been pitching about our dependence on China is too high. We want to disengage. We want to offshore from China and so on. But business, like you said, has its own logic.
Economic gravity is what we're dealing with.
That's
here.
right.
And those who think that they're going to change the economic gravity, historically, they're always proven wrong. You just
What's
can't do it.
dangerous, though, what's really dangerous is that they can't address the economic issue, so they start turning ideological and political.
Yeah.
And we've seen this even among German friends who appear in Beijing, getting very ideological in lecturing Chinese friends about, oh, the war in Ukraine, how can you...
Yeah, but I mean, isn't it hypocritical when there's a war in Africa or in the Middle East or in the stands? It's
Or
kind of like
even-
it's, oh, go, go, go. You know,
Even
who cares?
even worse than that, what else did NATO do? The bombing of Yugoslavia,
No.
including the Chinese embassy in Yugoslavia. You know,
Well, that was a complicated situation.
that was a
Very complicated.
accident too.
Well, yes, you always use 2 bunker bombs to take out they said it was just a warehouse.
Yeah,
I don't know why you need a bunker bomb to hit a warehouse.
warehouse.
Regular munitions would take care of it, but 2 bunker bombs makes you kind of wonder
yeah.
what the story is. But there was some issue about stealth technology. A U.S. Plane had gone down, and somebody tried to.
But
tell
wasn't that also a war in Europe?
a war in Europe? Yes.
And this is their whole argument, the Germans. Oh, we can't take a war in Europe. Russia.
But then why do you promote wars abroad?
That's right.
Why is it okay there? And I think there's a lot of people in the global South who are kind of looking at Europe and saying, gee, it's okay when it's in my backyard, but when it's in your backyard, then we have to choose.
Aside from that hypocrisy, but I think there's also a sense of racism here in terms of against the global South, you know. If it's black people killing themselves.
Black or brown or yellow, that's okay.
Right, that's okay.
That's to be expected.
Yeah.
White people killing white people. Oh,
That's
my goodness.
not unacceptable.
That's unacceptable. There's something must be clearly wrong in the world. Talking about wars, Joe Biden made 4 times unequivocal that he would defend Taiwan. And then we have Blinken showing up with a meeting with Wang Yi, the foreign minister and state counselor of China. And makes crystal clear, the one China policy. But I mean, look, and then, what I liked is if somebody's watching this, they want to see something interesting, they should read something interesting. They should read Wang Yi's speech to the Asia Society
in New
York, where he just laid it out. He says, well, on one hand, we hear these assurances about one China policy. On the other hand, we see boats going up and down the Taiwan Straits, being joined now by Canada.
That's right.
Billions in munition sales to
and U.S.
Taiwan.
dragging Germany into the mix.
Yeah.
German ship and German aircrafts are now doing co-exercises with the Japanese.
But I would say they don't have enough fuel, yet they can send fighter jets all the way
to Japan,
across the world, and at some point. There was a brilliant, interesting speech in the Bundestag, in the German parliament, where a woman said, "What are you doing? We cannot feed our people. We're not competitive. We're losing industry, and you're running around screaming about these ideological things." All right, which,
not taking care of the people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is government for? To take care of the people.
But this is interesting, watching that speech, it shows that there are deep divisions in German society as well now.
Well, but those divisions are being echoed everywhere. I mean, we're started looking at Italy. Big swing to the right. They're expected to get 65% between a center-right coalition. And that's going to send shockwaves because the right has been saying that, we don't need Europe. Yeah. That the EU is not in our interest.
This is also Sweden too.
Yeah, there's swing. But I think you're going to see that in a lot of countries.
All over Europe. Yeah. But where does that lead Europe to? Europe will be deeply divided internally.
I mean, you could literally be looking at the dissolution or ineffectiveness of it. I mean, they needed to go one way or other. They have monetary union. They all use the euro, but no fiscal union. So the money is being floated around in very strange ways. The central bank is struggling to come to terms with the fact that they have no input on the individual economies that they're supposed to be trying to help.
Einar, looking at Germany in particular, and possibly the rest of Western Europe, doesn't it remind you of what happened to the US in terms of hollowing out of industrialization?
Ah, yes. But in this particular case, it's the US who's saying, onshoring.
To the US.
Yes, we're competitive. Although right now, I don't think with kind of inflation and debt that we're looking at, I think, and that brings up this issue. There's a tsunami of money flowing into the US because of the higher interest rates. But at a certain point, if confidence in the US economy goes down,
or even flickers,
you could see a massive outpouring, and that would be catastrophic, because ironically, if it starts pouring out, interest rates go up. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the US has to float its debt.
Yeah.
All right. Right now, it's okay because they're taking inflation dollars and paying off past debts. But as soon as that point is over, they're going to be in a situation where a lot more of the federal budget is going to be going to pay debt service.
Okay. What happens when it starts to flow out? The question is going to be, where is it going to flow to?
Well,
big question.
An economy that is
stable,
able to plan, able to execute, stable, has a stable currency,
stable
has
growth,
production, has big markets. I can't imagine what country that would be other than
China.
To
mind, yeah. Because I was thinking that you certainly wouldn't move to Europe because European is not competitive. There's no question. UK also is collapsing. Japan, there are issues.
We can't just gloss over that. I mean, astounding. Liz Truss, just saying, we're going to invent money to pay off people's bills. She clearly has no plan. Stalwarts are coming out, and she's gotten a big raspberry from everybody, including the royal family, who were not very interested in having her around on the goodwill tour.
So Europe is really out of the question in terms of flow of capital. I think it's going to be Asia, ex-Japan and Korea. Depends on whether or not Korea integrates itself further into the Asian economy. Japan, the situation is really quite dire. I saw it hit at 146 yen to the dollar. And even the Japanese central bank, which never does this, had to intervene in the currency markets.
Well, what else are they going to do? They're
no
really
choice.
Being killed, and they have the largest amount of U.S. denominated debt. In theory, that's helping them because they're a holder of these treasuries, but they're at lower rates.
Yeah.
So at this time, if you buy now, it looks good. But if you're trying to offload, old treasuries and things like that at low rates, you're underwater.
That's right.
And that's not a situation they can stand for very long.
Something we talked about before, Japan, in addition to Germany, Japan and Korea for the last 6 months have been running trade deficit. These are major manufacturing centers. They're running trade deficit, but China is running a trade surplus. And
a large
ASEAN countries
large trade surplus.
Very
the largest.
And most of the ASEAN countries are also doing quite well, relatively.
Yeah, but this is that economic shift, but it's not just to the east. It's away from developed countries towards emerging and developing countries in terms of overall growth rates. Unfortunately, I do think that the drop in global demand is going to start hurting a lot of countries very hard, especially those who don't have the manufacturing, they don't have currency reserves.
That's right.
They're going to be in tough shape.
No supply chain.
No. And no markets.
Yeah.
What'd you think? You mentioned South Korea. What did you think of that thing where they caught him on a hot mic and then tried to explain it away? Oh, no, I wasn't talking about Americans. I was talking about South Korea. But for some reason, in that sentence, he kept mentioning Biden.
That's right.
So I don't know if there's a Biden in South Korea.
Biden and the American Congress.
Yeah, but it was a pretty interesting hot mic incident where he's just saying, if this guy can't it was the whole thing was about $6 billion that was to go into a fund to fight 600 million, I think. Yeah, to go into fight diseases and things like that, as TB and a lot of other diseases that are on the polio, for instance, is coming back. TB, measles, Ebola, all of these things are coming back. So, people have been lulled into this sense that, once COVID is over, we go back to normal. No, there's been a lot of changes. A lot of people, especially in the West, who are vaccine deniers. So they don't take the regular vaccine. They don't want the polio vaccine. They don't want their children to have the measles, mumps, all of these things. So you're going to see an explosion as these people exercising, quote, their rights and their freedoms. Their children and them start infecting others. Not very responsible. I never understand why you have rights but no responsibilities. How can that be? Interesting. You saw that there was a new video showing fake Trump electors spent hours inside the Georgia elections office the day it was breached, going over machines, quote, checking them and things like that. And then there are machines that are showing up on eBay, which you can't, they're not sold to the public. So there's real questions about what is happening here.
To the electoral process.
So I think that Donald Trump is right. I think that there was manipulation of the election process. Only it was by Republicans.
By Trump's side.
Yes, by Trump's side.
That's right.
I'm still going back. Trump telling Sean Hannity on Fox News that you can declassify something if you think about it. I mean, that's really a bridge too far.
I can do it.
Yeah, I can do it. I got the magic right here.
That's right.
Meanwhile, his legal troubles are just compounding.
How about the New York cases?
New York case is interesting because this is, I spent a year
close to dear to your heart.
I spent a year as an intern in the DA's office, and then I was doing criminal law. These are the kind of cases that prosecutors love. Why? Because you don't need a witness other than somebody who keeps the records. And they get on the stand and they say, here's these papers. Did you receive these papers? Yes. Now, the defense can say, that's not my signature. I didn't submit that. But we're talking hundreds and hundreds, not thousands of documents.
That's right.
Which are clearly signed, and you can have a handwriting expert authenticate. So generally, the defense doesn't want to go there. They don't want to say, no, some elf was signing this. Not me. We were just benefiting from this. So $250 million is what's at stake here. But this is a civil case. All right, it's not criminal. But Letitia James, who's the Attorney General for New York State, has referred these matters to the IRS, to the state tax authorities, and also to the DA's office for criminal prosecution. Now, if they're able to prove their case, it's going to be very easy, much easier, although it's a higher standard, to
on
take
the criminal
them to
side.
crimes.
Yeah.
But the reason, let me go back to why it's so easy. There's no defense. You submitted the documents. I say, I'd love to see the scenario where they say, this is what you submitted for your taxes. You said the building was worth $2 million. This is what you submitted to the insurance company. You said it was worth $20 million. Here's what you put on your portfolio.
Minus
$200 million.
$200 million.
Yes.
And then in terms of the taxes side is maybe negative $2 million.
$2 million. It was 2, 20, and 40, and this type of things. But you just say, okay, which one is true, which means the other two are lies, or are they all false? That's the only question you can ask, and you really don't have a good answer. In most cases like this, the defense will pack it in because there is no defense.
There's no way to defend against that.
And he's trying to muddy the waters, saying, I'm a businessman, I'm smart, this is what smart people do. But he can say it's smart, but the truth is it's tax fraud. And it's insurance fraud, and it's bank fraud, and that's not going to
securities fraud,
and
too.
Securities fraud too, to the extent that you use those valuations in the procuring of money.
That's right.
So he's
got lots of frauds.
Well, that, and then they're closing in. It seems like they're issuing a wider and wider net for all the efforts to overthrow the election. with fake electors, all of this stuff. I mean, they're subpoenaing people in Georgia, left, right, and center. So is the congressional committee that's looking into this. So I don't think that he's going to make it through. He'll make it through November, but after that, I think he's going to be basically sidelined. Even Republicans couldn't believe this thing about declassifying the mind. And to the extent that he said stuff like that, the faithful will remain, but everyone else, all the sane people will leave.
What a country.
UN General Assembly, what was your overall opinion?
I think UN is in trouble.
Yeah. Well, you spent years there.
15 years.
15
and
years.
it was moving in that direction. I think it's become quite politicized. I think the General Assembly used to be a place where people promoted what is correct or what is ideologically correct. And it did focus on development of the developing countries, improving their economic and social and political status, and so on and so forth. But today it's become the battleground of
large powers.
That's right,
pushing
major
their
powers. And the big push now is transforming the Security Council.
Yeah, but look, none of the five are actually going to say, oh yes, let's open it up. I mean, it's paralyzed now. Adding 40 people to it, just 40 countries to it, isn't going to make it better. That means that everyone wants a veto.
It's not going to make it better. It's going to make it worse. But tactically, what the U.S. would like to do is to get rid of the veto. And basically, they would control the number of votes. In other words, instead of one vote.
Yeah.
So you increase the number of people
who are on your side.
That's right. Like Germany and Japan are now actively pursuing a position. India too.
So is India.
Yeah.
But a lot of those things are not written in Turkey, but they're not written in stone. Germany could change due to this latest financial crisis. Japan, as I've said, I mean, if you really want to know who has been the nemesis of Japan since
long time, yes.
Long time has been the U.S.
Yeah.
Japan, as you pointed out last time, their economy is actually less than it was 30 years before they signed the Plaza Accord that the U.S. forced them to sign.
Yeah.
So they have actually gone backwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think the UN will continue to be a forum of potentially some exchange in which the smaller developing countries will have a place to at least to present their voice.
Their voice, but is it going to be heard?
But politically, what will happen is the battle is going to be all around the Security Council.
When I hear Biden get up there and say, quote, "I reject the use of violence and war to conquer nations or expand borders through bloodshed," end quote. And I think to myself of Iraq, Afghanistan, and this 72 times that since World War II, the U.S. has militarily intervened in trying to create regime change. I mean, am I the only one who senses this hypocrisy?
I think you sense it and you project it very well, and the rest of the world, especially the global South, is beginning to pick it up. It is increasingly recognized that the U.S. cannot be counted on. Even for the most ideological Germans are now also thinking, well, maybe we should be more independent because there could be another Donald Trump coming in another 2 years or so. Right?
I participated in a forum, and what was interesting to me is it was a European China forum. And all the Europeans said the same thing. We feel strongly about the war in Ukraine. We are going to rearm. He says, and part of the reason isn't because of Ukraine, it's because we don't trust the U.S. And they all said that. And I was kind of taken aback because it always seems like the EU is backing the U.S. plan. But when you start talking about changing the makeup of the Security Council, I think the U.S. is living in a make-believe land if they think that all of these, quote, stalwarts are going to send. I mean, South Korea, they have some real problems. All South Korean electric vehicles cannot be sold, or they can be sold, but there will be no
tax abatement.
Tax abatement. They don't qualify. In fact, no company does. But I mean, it's, they're looking at this, and the CHIPS Act, which is trying to put their chip business out of business. I mean, I don't think they see this as terribly friendly.
No, it's 35% of their GDP that Americans are trying to get out of the business.
Exactly.
It's absurd.
But it's just, and then you have, and this is a quote, this is from Joe Biden, as we manage shifting geopolitical trends, the United States will conduct itself as a reasonable leader. We do not see conflict. We do not seek Cold War. We do not ask any nation to choose between the United States or any other partner. How can he say that with a straight face? I mean, we saw a week and a half ago, Linda Grenfell going down to South Africa, going around saying, you with us or against us?
That's right.
And then that brilliant speech by the South African foreign minister saying, we don't, you're not going to force us to make these.
Not you, Mr. Blinken.
Not you, Mr. Blinken, but others.
Other officials.
Other officials. Linda Grenfell, 2 days earlier, choose or not. But I mean, why have we gotten to the point where it's so much post-truth, post-hypocrisy, that leaders get up and just arbitrarily say things that make no sense, that aren't true? I mean, U.S. is always in conflict. There hasn't been a day.
That's right. What we're addressing now is something that actually became very blatant during Donald Trump days, because he was just shoot out his mouth, anything goes.
Yeah, but I mean, Biden, I don't know what's coming out of his mouth. It just seems kind of strange. I mean,
in his case, it's more a softer tone.
The same stuff. He hasn't changed anything.
Same hypocrisy, same lies. Oh, speaking of lies and hypocrisy, you know about this Palestinian friend of ours?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He said, I thought it was just brilliant. We Palestinians are Islamic. And Americans obviously don't like us. And they've, for years and years, supported militarily, financially, for us to be battered. Now it seems like they also don't like the Chinese. Sanctions, all kinds of statements attacking China for being aggressive, being this, being that. So they don't like Islamic people. They don't like Chinese people, but you put the two together in a Uyghur. They love them.
Well, they care.
They really care so much.
They don't care about Palestinians. They don't care about Chinese. But they love Muslim Chinese.
That's right.
That's interesting. Biden also said that he's going to go to the G20. It's not clear what he's going to do there. But then
meet with Mr. Putin.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Well, that would be a positive step if it did happen. I don't think so. But now he's going to skip APEC. And he's sending his trusty vice president, Kamala Harris. She's going to go there. She's going to fly the flag. But it seems strange. I mean, it was just a day after. And instead of doing that, he says, well, I have family reasons. I'm going home. No real indication. I mean, as we've been saying, Southeast Asian nations, APEC has been the area which has had the most growth. I would think that if I'm a nation who's having economic problems, I might be interested in paying attention to a very, very important group. I mean, economic gravity, you name it. There are so many issues involved.
That's right.
And he's, once again, just like Trump, ignoring it.
Yeah.
Ignored Africa, ignored South America. The only time they seem interested is if somebody from China goes to one of these places,
they'll send somebody
down, like Blinken and Linda.
But whatever the case, I don't think they have much to offer to the ASEAN countries.
But not showing up. That's
not showing up
because it means that we don't care.
That's right. But they only care if it means using the ASEAN countries to attack China, provoke China.
Have they given up? Has ASEAN been very clear?
I think ASEAN has made it very clear to them that, sorry, we're not going to choose. Yeah. But guess what? We're doing our bread and butter business, which means it's with China.
Talking about, Solomon's stood up in the UN and said they've been unfairly targeted since recognizing China. And that was a statement by the president of the UN. When you go back to what is the purpose of the UN? To prevent bullies.
That's right.
From arbitrarily taking it. Now, the US is always saying they're against authoritarianism, against all of these things. Yet, we hear case after case, whether it was in South Africa or other nations, where the US is applying pressure everywhere, even to allies. Going back to pounding the table for 6 hours or whatever it was with the UK saying that you can't have Huawei. I don't care what your reports say. I don't care. This is an issue. If you don't give in to us on this, you don't get any more intelligence. You're out of the Five Eyes.
We don't care if you've already proven that there's no backdoor on Huawei.
Well, we don't want to hear that. It can't be possible. There's stuff you don't know. Can you tell us? No.
No, actually, what he said was interesting. That whatever you say about there's no backdoor with Huawei equipment, whether or not it's true is irrelevant.
Yes. Oh, completely political.
That's right.
But it really goes to this. It's an all-out attack on China, and whoever gets in the way is just collateral damage. It's this thing that came about. Two things involving India. One, in Canada, the number of attacks against Indians is increasing by multifold. And the Indian government made a statement to it. And the Canadians just responded, "Oh, we always catch everybody who does anything wrong." But it didn't address this issue. There's rising racism within Canada.
Yeah.
And that they seem to be echoing a lot of the kind of Trump philosophy that if it isn't white, it isn't right.
That's right.
Yeah. Something wrong with these foreigners, despite the fact that India is supposed to be an ally.
A strong political ally. And despite the fact also that the Canadians have prided themselves on being more liberal, more freedom-loving than the Americans. Yeah. The Canadians have always been priding themselves on that.
Well, they have. But, India also had some interesting things. There was a report that found that the botnet that was engaged in smear campaigns against what they described as anti-national journalists, as well as making calls to boycott Chinese products, was courtesy
of India,
the Indian government, or their security services.
Yeah.
So this seems to be the order of the day. Whatever you don't like, doesn't matter if it's factual.
That's right.
Just make it up.
That's right.
Put it on social media. Weaponize it. All right. And talking of which, they
learned from the Americans very well on this.
Well, the key to social manipulation today is simply drowning people in false accusations on a daily basis.
False information. Yes.
They don't have the ability to check on whether any of it is true.
Mm-hmm. Whatever the case, in terms of India, though, I think there's been some changes in terms of their attitude toward China over the course of the last several weeks.
Yeah, the withdrawal of the troops from the Hot Point area.
That's right. And then the meeting between Wang Yi and the Indian Foreign Minister.
But he took some pot shots afterwards, which...
Let him.
Yeah, I know.
That's for domestic consumption. I think increasingly, India walking out of the Indo-Pacific
yes.
U.S. initiative.
Yes.
Indo-Pacific Economic Initiative, right?
Which has no substance to it.
That's right.
And which is never going... the U.S. in India couldn't agree at the Doha round.
Yeah.
Right? And that was 20 years ago. And what are the chances they're going to agree now?
But whatever the case, walking away from that is interesting on the India's part, because they could have participated and wasted time and, continue to have discussions and so on.
They seem to be playing it both ways. They dance between all the different powers. Obviously, Russia's on the radar because they get their military equipment there. China because there's a tremendous amount of trade. U.S. because of security. It seems that they want something, but it's never clear to me exactly what they want. You can never get
short-term manipulation.
Well, short term, but I mean, I've talked to people on the Chinese side and involved in that, and I said, well, what do you think that India wants? He said, we ask them all the time, and we never get an answer. They just, they'll say something, well, we just want what we're entitled to, and they're like, well, can you give us?
Maybe they don't
Is it
really
bigger than
know.
a bread box?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they don't know what they really want.
I think it's transactional. They're trying to see what will shake loose and then try to ask for a little bit more. Oh, in China, Bilibili is getting hammered. Their stock has dived by almost 90%. I mean, Bilibili is one of the, biggest social media.
Absolutely.
Things. But I can't figure out why it's being. There's somebody out there who's pushing a lot of short interest on this in terms of the options.
But Bilibili, it doesn't make sense at all because Bilibili is extremely popular.
Popular, and my understanding is that they are making a profit.
They are. Absolutely.
So, I mean, there are plenty of social media companies who haven't made a dime.
That's right.
One that Elon Musk is about to own.
That's right.
And yet, I don't know. It's just something of interest. I couldn't figure it out. I wondered if you had any ideas.
What I've seen is that after Muddy Waters did their things, it's attacking Chinese companies, shorting it, and then coming out with stories and so on.
Become a national sport.
It becomes a sport, yeah. But in terms of Bilibili, it's very well run, very well organized, and has fanatically strong followings among the young.
It's still growing, and that's why I don't understand why this would be things. But,
especially among the young, among those in their 20s. It's a huge website.
One of the things I want to get talking about, since we're in that space, Ethereum. And they had the merge, what they call it, which moved from proof of work. The proof of work was the data mining, and that allowed you could earn coins, bitcoins or Ethereum coins, by doing the data mining, which is what reset the whole system, kept track of everything.
Right.
Now they moved to this thing where it's proof, do you have the coin? And then if you have the coin, you guarantee transactions that are being made. And by guaranteeing transactions, you get paid, right? They're obviously just starting out. But now the SEC has said,
a security.
You're a security, because what? You're guaranteeing.
That's right.
So all of these things have to be, subject to our
SEC regulations.
Yeah, but also I think it does away with the anonymous factor. So despite that, I think they can get through the SEC stuff because it's simply disclosure and filing, and it actually brings some order because you know who's guaranteeing it. It's not just simply they have coins, but do you want to really be being guaranteed by a South American drug dealer?
That's right. Because what happens here is that it takes away the anonymous element of it.
I think it's a huge, huge area. I expect the company to do very well, especially in areas smart contracts that allow transactions to be automated, less costly.
But it means all these other cryptocurrencies, eventually, if they want to be in the market, will have to subject themselves to SEC.
They can't. Can you imagine going to Bitcoin and say, gee whiz, you got to always disclose who you are. I think there'd be a little dip in the market value of Bitcoin. What do you think? Do you think China's zero COVID is ending? There's been a lot of indications that they might be going to a 3-day quarantine.
That's right. Yeah. Well, after Hong Kong announced the 0+3.
Yeah. How's that working? Hong Kong still has quite a few cases, though.
Yeah, 0+3 means 0 days of quarantine, but 3 days of monitoring, right?
But if the monitoring means you stay in your hotel. Or
that's right. You stay in the hotel room. You're not allowed to go to public spaces, right? I think increasingly it's possible to identify the risk basis of.
They have a tremendous amount of data.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a very welcome thing, but when that happens, there's going to be an incredible mad rush of everybody who can in China going somewhere outside of China.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. I was talking to somebody in the airline industry, and they just said, well, there's ups and downs and things like that. Pilot strikes, airline staff strikes, all of these things. And of course, they downsized. So now, all of a sudden, they're going to have this huge demand. That should do pretty well for the airline industries in the short term. Let's see how long it lasts.
The V-shaped response to this.
Yeah, but they won't be able to supply. It's not like you can just lay on aircraft.
That's right.
They have to be upkept. They have all sorts of inspections.
There are all kinds of problems with that. Even at management of airports are having problems because of staff shortages. Yeah.
How are things going in Macau? You know a lot about them.
Dramatically bad.
Yeah, I think gambling is way down.
Yeah, gambling is way down for a variety of reasons. Because central government is very, very keen on suppressing the gambling instinct of the Chinese.
Well, I don't know if it's gambling instinct or is it
money laundering.
Money laundering instinct.
Yes, yes, capital flight and so on and so forth. That's what Macau has been used for. But I think Macau has to do something because it has to get out of the easy life, the easy good life of gambling and just collect.
They have to have a real economy. They
That's
can't
right.
depend on being an extension of the Las Vegas
But it's
Strip.
quite difficult for them because they don't have the talent and the personnel that's necessary.
Yeah, but they're part of mainland China. I mean, the talent and everything is
readily available.
Readily available.
What we found in terms of trying to set up the green exchange in Macau and also RMB bond trading and so on and so forth is talented people don't want to move to Macau.
Which is odd. I mean, everyone will move to Hong Kong. This is what, 5 miles away?
That's right.
Yeah.
But they don't want to go to Macau. Mm-hmm. I think for several reasons. One is the people in Macau are so used to the easy life. There isn't very strong enthusiasm and work ethic to really go with it.
But they are creating areas that will be considered part of Macau on the mainland.
That's right.
And those,
are
you're
better.
Crossing a land border, it'll be populated probably by people not from Macau, but from outside. So they can take advantage of Macau's international position, but not have to pay the high fees associated with living there.
Hopefully that helps.
I hope so too.
Okay.
Global South. Lulu seems to be gaining on Bolsonaro. Any calls on that election? I think Lulu is going to win.
He's going to win,
Yeah, but then there's going to be a Trump-style pushback by Bolsonaro who insists that I told you it was rigged because I didn't win. You start with a conclusion, and then everything that contradicts that is obviously a lie or a conspiracy. I mean, this seems to be the...
Actually, for Joe Biden, neither one is very, very favorable for the U.S.
Well, I don't have to think about it in terms of the U.S., but in terms of Brazil itself, I mean, they need to return to some sort of stable leadership, normal international relations and things like that.
The economy is doing well. The Brazilian economy is doing very well because they export a lot of things that people all over the world want.
Yeah, no, they have energy, they have
food, lots of food stuff.
Lots of food stuff. Although they did have some problems this year with the climate change issues.
And the other thing that they had problems with, which a Brazilian official told us, you remember, is getting fertilizers from Russia.
Well, it's not. It's because so much a component of it is associated with, is gotten from petroleum.
Yeah.
It's not only shortage, but it's also supply. I mean,
Yeah.
the cost. I mean, it's really going up. If oil's going up, why should I convert it into fertilizer? I can get more money by selling the
oil without the hassle.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a double whammy that's going to affect everything. Ecuador reaches deal with China to restructure debt. Haven't heard anything about it on the international press. Yes.
That's right.
It was just kind of like China was practicing debt diplomacy until it forgave all of these loans to African countries. And then you don't hear a peep about debt diplomacy anymore.
That's right.
I mean,
nobody else has ever done it. It's to
I mean,
forgive
you think that there'd be analysis, scholarly articles. This calls for the U.S. and Europe to do the same thing, but nothing. Absolutely, it's like crickets out there. You don't hear anything.
Yeah.
These are some questions that viewers have asked. I just want to. We'll each take two seconds to say something.
Okay.
So right now, higher inflation is going around the world. What are people in China? What should they be concerned about?
I don't think so. I think that people in China are quite comfortable with the way the economy, the financial side of it, the monetary side of it is. There will be further stimulus from the Chinese government, and there probably will not be inflationary pressures in China. It's become very clear.
The newest
2.5%, right?
Yeah, and the newest jobs report in China actually signaled that there's been an increase.
That's right. So,
which I mean, it's that confidence that's going forward. I do believe there will be some effects in terms of this inflation is going to dampen global demand. I think China still takes the lion's share because it's the low-cost manufacturer, people looking for cheaper things. I think China does well with that.
There is also the attempt by the government, partially successful so far, of creating and generating internal demand.
Yes.
Increasing that.
But that means small, medium-sized business enterprises. 90% of new jobs, 80% of existing jobs, they were hit really hard during this last part. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Second question. What does it mean for the 4 regions of Ukraine who are voting to join the Russian?
It becomes Russian territory.
Yes. And this is something that people, if you want to understand it, once they join Russia, Lavrov, the foreign minister, has said they are part of Russia and they will be defended as such. But it means that this war is going to drag on longer and longer because no Ukrainian politician is able to say, oh yeah, give up those 4 areas, we don't care anymore.
That's right.
And it's going to be really, really difficult. Zelensky is running around now accusing Israel of why haven't you given us free weapons or haven't you supplied
delivered
weapons?
It. That's right.
And the Israelis aren't even interested. Yet, where's the U.S. saying, choose? You're either with us or against us, Israel. We only give them $5 billion a year, right? Very interesting, the hypocrisy involved.
Yeah.
If it's Israel who does it, it's understandable. India, we don't like it, it's understandable. Indonesia, South, it's fine. China, obviously, that's different.
That's right.
Not that China has done anything to support Russia.
Even the Americans have said that China has not done any military side.
I know, but you still hear these stories day after day that China and Russia are in league. Third question, China. New jobs are increasing. 60% of the new jobs are for young people.
Yeah, this new job is very interesting. It's an escort to help you go see the doctor.
What does that mean?
It means instead of hustling through a densely packed hospital by yourself, trying to find out where to go, you have an escort who knows the hospital well and knows the people well.
I know, but isn't that an area where perhaps it's time to be more efficient rather than having...
That's right. Now, the efficiency certainly exists because I've used the hospitals in Beijing quite a lot. And the apps of the hospitals, everything now is digitized.
I noticed that when I went there, all they did is scan a QR code and then everything was done. I mean, I remember going there 10 years ago and it was like 3 hours to just sign in.
Yeah. But what you're
windows.
describing, what you've seen and what we've seen is really Beijing and Shanghai and maybe Shenzhen.
Yeah, but that's the way China does it. They try these things, and then if it's working, then they export it.
So
to
this
everywhere
new
else.
job category is not going to last very long when the technology spreads out to other second, third tier cities.
But it's necessary. A lot of people seeking hospital
Treatment.
they're elderly.
That's right.
And these systems can be quite daunting. If you're sick, perhaps mentally not as sharp as you used to be wandering around trying to figure out how it is. But I think it's good that people are paying attention to this, that the market is responding to the need. So
that's right.
We'll see what happens there. Fourth question, Chinese products like electric blankets, surprise, surprise, are going through the roof.
In Europe. Yeah.
In Europe, not just Europe, US, you name it, everywhere. They're, these products, and this is another example where China is going to export a lot of sweaters,
that's right,
electric blankets, personal heaters, anything that can cut down
millions
your
and
bill.
millions and millions to Europe in the last 4 months. But the next question is, what happens if you don't have electricity?
That's another issue. Or as a friend of mine who went to San Francisco recently he said, well, we were told we couldn't raise the thermostat, we couldn't lower it below a certain amount, and they had brownouts and blackouts. And they said, you can't have electricity. This is the United States, now seemingly a third world country.
Europe is now headed in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, I don't wish anybody any bad, but I don't understand, and we've talked about this, and I'm going to keep coming back to it. It was all predictable.
That's right.
I mean, Russia exports all of this, your energy and food and all these strategic fertilizer, it's corn, barley, wheat, and Ukraine is also involved. You put them together, you're creating a massive shortfall. I mean, isn't that what government's supposed to do? They're supposed to plan, figure out a way around this stuff.
And government are supposed to think about the potential outcome of their actions, are supposed to have policies that addresses what will come in the near future or the medium-term future. And the Europeans are simply, in terms of government,
it's like an ostrich. They have their head in the sand.
Totally.
All right, I think we've wound it up for the week. Next week.
Next week it is.
All right.